Have any of you ever thought at any point in time why it feels like each summer is getting warmer and warmer, and more extreme fluctuations are occurring on an annual basis worldwide? Well, I can certainly say it's not a crazy idea to ponder on. Trees, grasslands, whole environments altogether are torn apart for the self-interest of individuals, causing a whole string of problems to occur that affect our planet. All of these problems can be traced down to a single topic. That topic I'm bringing to the table today is global climate change. I brought you all in gathering today because this is an issue that affects not just myself and those sitting in the audience, but your children and your children's children. Sadly, many elected officials in today's time choose to ignore the very real damages of global climate change, all for the purpose of their own greed. Of course, there is some in power and find this issue to be a huge humanitarian crisis. After all, there was the Paris Agreement, which was a landmark agreement to combat climate change and to accelerate and intensify the actions needed for a sustainable low-carbon future. But overall, it is the duty of us, everyday citizens, who more oversee the effects of global climate change on our planet and lives. To put it in perspective, if nothing at all is done to combat this issue, humanity as we know it could see petrifying effects in the near future, such as the drastic decrease in human population, a heavily polluted earth, and terrible living conditions. It seems each year the effects are getting worse, so it is truly up to our generations to spark change. We are moving in a terrible direction with the amount of greenhouse gases that we are continuously emitting into the atmosphere. Changing ecosystems, effects on human health and well-being, and a higher chance of catastrophic weather events all are the felt effects. That being said, let me now jump into the three main catalysts of global climate change. The first huge point to be made is how global climate change is affecting ecosystems on a grand scale. A higher carbon footprint in the atmosphere contributes highly to rising temperatures in places such as wetlands, forests, and barrier beaches. Sea levels are rising increasingly faster, which harms barrier beaches and the surrounding environment. Procon.org states, as human-produced greenhouse gases warm the planet, sea levels are rising due to thermal expansion of warming ocean waters, as well as meltwater from receding glaciers and the polar ice cap. This point doesn't just involve rising sea levels, but melting ice caps as well, which is an indirect correlation to rising levels of the ocean. Between 1979 and 2006, the decline in Arctic ice was 9.1% each decade. As of 2014, Arctic sea ice was being lost at a rate of 13.3% per decade. On the contrary, according to Procon.org, coming out of the Pleistocene ice age around 18,000 years ago, Earth's sea levels were about 400 feet lower than they are now and have been steadily rising since. With this in mind, it would also be wise to consider the positive impact climate change could have on trade. Warmer temperatures throughout the year leads to longer periods of times without areas such as the Great Lakes and Arctic Ocean being frozen. This allows for a longer period of shipping in these areas. Although it is not just the environment that global climate change has its effects on, although it majorly affects it, it also takes a toll on the health and well-being of us humans and even animals. My second point is how these factors are affecting human health and well-being. Global climate change is affecting the food and water we consume, as well as bringing along rises in diseases transmitted through different insects and a decreased air quality. Diseases and illnesses are being spread increasingly throughout the world, and a portion of that could be because of global warming. The severity of vector-transmitted diseases by mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas becomes increasingly worse. An article by globalchange.gov explains the seasonality, distribution, and prevalence of vector-borne diseases are influenced significantly by climate factors, primarily high and low temperature extremes and precipitation patterns. These effects cannot fully be confirmed. There will be a lot of variability in climate. It is to say that the vectors can adapt to new climates that may be in favor of them, making it easier to pass the disease to different hosts. Global climate change also gravely affects the foods us humans consume. There are two ways in which global climate change affects nutrition and distribution of food. The first way is directly through rising temperatures triggering extreme weather events. Frequent changes in weather patterns could have major impacts on farms, agriculture such as spoilage, contamination, and disrupted food distribution. The second way is through the carbon dioxide fertilization effect on plant photosynthesis, as described by globalchange.gov. Higher levels of carbon dioxide can lead to a higher carbohydrate production level, but a reduced protein level in crops we regularly consume, like wheat, rice, and potatoes. From damaging ecosystems to altered food supply, it would be ignorant to ignore possibly one of the gravest and well-known threats of global climate change. Finally, my last point, that it is triggering more powerful and destructive weather to circulate around the world. Rising temperatures worldwide can lead to the formation of catastrophic weather such as large hurricanes, droughts, forest fires, and heavier snowstorms. Higher climate in all areas of different attributes eventually have damaging effects. For instance, in areas with drier climates such as deserts with rising temperatures, it becomes more prone to risks such as longer droughts, forest fires, and longer fire seasons overall. In areas along the coast with a bit more humid climates, rising temperatures brings the threat of storm surge, flooding, and catastrophic storms such as hurricanes. It is not only a safety risk to humans, but extreme weather also affects infrastructure like roads, rail lines, airports, port facilities, energy infrastructure, and military bases, according to globalchange.gov. Also, although it may sound counterintuitive, warmer temperatures can lead to heavier and longer periods of snowfall in the north. According to climate scientist Elissa Ako, there is more moisture in the warmer atmosphere, which ultimately allows for such a thing to occur. The idea scientists are hypothesizing is that warmer Arctic temperatures can weaken the jet stream, thus allowing the polar air to travel south. With these factors in mind about the increased risk of climate change to our planet, one would think a set of solutions would be set in place to combat it. These effects directly have an impact on mankind and the ecosystems surrounding us, like the melting of polar ice and rising sea temperatures, threats to human health and well-being, and the increased risk of catastrophic weather patterns. There's not a grand scale solution I can offer in this moment, for I'm just a normal citizen without a status of power. However, there's a few things we can all do as a society to slowly decrease pollution on both the earth and atmosphere. The solution I offer is to always recycle and switch to more renewable sources of energy if possible, such as solar-powered vehicles. These may seem like minor things that wouldn't help a huge problem with global climate change in the moment, but if enough people respond and act upon the solution, together as a society, we will start to see a shift in the direction we are currently moving in.